Okay, on my way to my first autism assessment, feeling very anxious. I bounce between excitement, exciting, this is validating. That's how I had been leading up to this point. Last night I couldn't sleep, I felt excited. Now it's utter horror. Do not want to go. I'm why am I doing this to myself? Why? And I'm having some very negative thoughts about having some very ableism thoughts, and I don't know, it feels like a newer experience feeling for me. At first I'm well, worst case, I'll just educate this lady about women autism that I've learned the past month. And then I'm wait, what happens if she's mean to me? What happens if she educates me in a way that makes me feel bad about myself? When I feel bad about myself, it's because I start comparing myself to this bar of normal or expectations by others or myself, and then I start to feel bad because I don't measure up. And those thought processes can happen very quickly, and I think it's a habit. It's when I was struggling with food or booze or whatever it was, it's just something I used as a coping skill for so long that's what I went to. Feeling any kind of emotion, better take a drink. And now this is having an experience. And the experience, whatever it is, my go-to habit was, how do I compare? How do I measure up? Am I normal enough, for this situation? And it would happen so quickly. And so much of it was on outward appearance. And, because that's all we can see, right?
And now it happens because of course it does. It's how it's always happened.
This is the teaching of samskaras from the yoga tradition. And then it sends me into a little spiral because I'm not measuring up, because I'm not doing the things I was doing before to measure up, keep my house spotless. So I'm just kind of trying to recognize that and label it and try to choose not to partake. Oh my gosh, I thought of why this feels so triggering, this waiting to get my autism assessment or going to meet with a person today. It feels very much like it did day of election. I was optimistic. I was of course it's gonna go well, right? Of course I won't be told I'm not. And then it happens, and it's I've been let down before. I also want to go in really unbiased. This person doesn't know me. I have another one today with someone who does know me. But I tend to feel I win over my therapist. I think I'm asking. So anyways, I'll keep you posted. Okay, just finished my assessment and had to come straight back to take a bath in my 2 inches of water because of the planet. It wasn't an assessment. It was the appointment before the assessment. The lady was really nice. We did a lot of personality tests. It was nice to actually be able to talk to someone about the questions and about how they don't make sense, and tell her my whole paragraph of an answer and her being is that yes or no? It was interesting too. I noticed I've been doing therapy forever. For so long I've done therapy. But recently, since the pandemic, I started therapy again after shattering my foot, and it was video. And then I do couples therapy, and it's video. And my kid did therapy, and it was video. And so to be in a therapist's office face to face, I could feel my feet. Like I think I like wore through my insoles with just like going like that with my feet. And I brought this like ball that I like to squeeze, and I popped it. And what works best is if I close my eyes. I've also noticed that with this channel, that like when I'm sharing something and it's hard for me, if I close my eyes, it's so much easier because it's like, you guys go away. And there's some weird dissociation I'm having to do to just post all of this online. So, anyways, now I have another therapy appointment with a therapist I saw before who diagnosed me with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and CPTSD, I think. No, I think she did. And so I have an appointment with her in an hour. So therapy day, taking care of myself. I'm privileged to be taking care of myself. Oh yeah, this lady though. It's like all the therapists are just like, wow, you're just so resilient. It's so cool your view about your special brain. Okay. Oh, so I just ended my second therapy appointment today early. So I was emailing her. This is my therapist I've like seen before, and like I've been emailing her a bunch, like, oh my gosh, I'm autistic, and like all these back and forth. And I was like, do you know this other lady I'm gonna go to for assessment? And she's like, no. And I'm like, do you do assessments? And she's like, yes, I do assessments. And I was like, perfect. So I'll go to this other person, then I'll go to you. Clearly, I didn't understand the assessment process. She can't do assessments. She tells me instead just tons of stories and monologues about her personal experience, and I'm like, I freaking attract neurodivergence like a magnet. This lady is clearly autistic too. Don't want to jump into any conclusions, but she has a lot of neurodivergent traits that I'm noticing. But she's talking in all of this disordered language, like visual disorder, or like if you need accommodations, and it's like disorder. And it's like, I feel like I'm so grateful that I found like Neuro for me. Podcasts and accounts and then books first before going into the world, because, and it's funny because in those books and podcasts and all the things they warn about this, but I thought it would be different. But it's like, it's not how it is out there. It's like, it's a different type of brain. It's a neurotype. It's not a disorder. And I felt like this therapist was doing a lot of like, everyone has a little bit of that. We probably all have a little bit of that. Like, she was like, my main therapist person I've studied under is a little Aspergy. And I'm like, I don't think there is a little. Like, you either are or you aren't. And like, we attract each other. So it's probably why you were attracted to learning from him. And like, probably why I was attracted to working with you. Have you heard about that telephone experiment? Probably gonna get it wrong, or study back in the day. One of the first studies on autism took like a neurotypical group, or an holistic group, and an autistic group. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, so I like tell this correctly in the future. And then he took a group of a combination of the both holistic and autistic, and he had them do like the telephone game, like you pass the word around. And the holistic group and the autistic group both were like successful, but the one that was combined didn't. And I think this was maybe the person who came up with like the neurodiversity word. Is that correct? Just been dumping the information in. It's amazing, things are sticking. Oh yeah, okay, so the ones that were mixed, autistic and non-autistic, weren't successful, and his theory was like, neurotypical brains work and better function with neurotypical brains, and neurodivergent brains work and function better with neurodivergent brains. Like, it feels like I'm like a wildfire spark, and that I thought I would just like kind of ignite like this wildfire of recognizing like so many of us are neurodivergent, and it's like why we get along. Anyways, it's just, I ended up with the call early because it was just like I could feel myself zoning out, and she was just like talking to him about this other client, and how this other client's a lot like me, and just like a lot about this other client, and like how this other client's considering she thinks she's autistic. she's trying to say she should get accommodations or she should get an assessment, and I'm saying, well, you only should if you need the accommodations.
I don't know, actually, like
the first therapist, I felt like I was able to share it and get a lot of stuff off my chest that like I've been wanting to. And I thought I was gonna have that experience with the second one, but I also feel like I've just like, it's been a lot. Like I didn't sleep a lot last night. I've just been like a lot of excitement or energy around this, and like my brain, I just like misunderstand a lot of things. Like I didn't understand the assessment thing. Like I kind of got that there was like a bigger assessment, but really talking to these people, like talking to my primary doctor and talking to like the therapist, they made it seem like, oh yeah, like to get assessment, just like have an appointment with them. So I thought this video would be like, and I am, or and I'm not, and I'll keep going. I guess actually that's the answer. So both of them are going to refer me to a psychologist because that's who gives diagnoses. It was funny because answering some of the questions with the first therapist, like I realized that a lot of the questions I take too literally and I've been answering wrong, but I thought I'd done a really good job of like realizing that and answering them right. But I realized there was one like do hyper focus and like not do other things, and I've actually always answered that one no, because I'm able to, I hyper focus, but I can still do all the things. Like I'm like, oh wait, I'm not, because I actually haven't done my schoolwork or like cleaned the house or showered in a while. I really need to go get my car worked on because it has the maintenance light on. It's had it on for a few days and it's like making white noise. This is my time to do it and I really don't want to do it.
little pep talk. You're gonna get your car worked on. It's gonna be great. Okay, so next day, and I learned something new. Okay, I learned something new, and I want to share. Like as I'm kind of fumbling through this journey, as I figured out I'm more neurodivergent than I thought. I'm making a lot of broad hypotheses, announcing the very uneducated hypotheses anyways. And when I learn new things, I'm going to kind of say like I learned this new thing because there might be other people who didn't know this either. So I didn't understand the autism phenotype. So I'm realizing that autism spectrum disorder has meets clinical diagnostic criteria that mainly have to do with making it hard to like function socially or like because of sensory issues. Autism phenotype, on the other hand, is like more mild. They have similar traits, but there's not that same impairment in function. So the disability isn't there as much for these people. And I'm realizing that a lot of people in my life who I'm like, oh my gosh, I see all these traits that they have, but like also they're functioning better than I am. And I'm kind of like, does everyone have autism? But no, not everyone has it. Like that's also like not the response. That also feels really invalidating. And so I'm realizing that like, and especially like the hereditary, like I had said earlier, like I feel like this spark, it's like, yes, I still think I'm meeting clinical dysfunctioning. Like I just had this argument with my kid's doctor's office because they were getting mad at me because I like didn't do, well, they probably weren't mad at me, but I felt like I was in trouble. I cried on the phone. Anyways, I'm not gonna say it now, but I was like, this is clearly like I clearly can't function. I can't even like all these different doctor's appointments. It's hard enough to keep the doctor appointments and meet them myself. And like I cancel them. Like when I can't meet them, I cancel them in advance. I'm not even like no showing. It's this kind of like non-clinical, not having or not meeting the clinical criteria of like that's what autism spectrum disorder is. It's like acknowledging the disability and the dysfunction of not being able to keep up with standards, where autism phenotype is more mild and they can, but also, are they just really well supported? Are they just really well supported? And if they meet burnout, then they'll meet the criteria that shows they're not functioning. But something that I think is really interesting when it comes to autism that like really helped my brain. And so like sometimes when it gets rattled and my brain can't hold on to this idea, I'm like, I really liked this idea. But like in my head, when I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm actually autistic, it's like, and my brain's just different. Like my understanding is like there's neurotypical brains or allistic brains, non-autistic brains that like look one way post autopsy, and then there's autistic brains that look another way and are different in a lot of different ways. And then autism phenotype, their brain's not different in all those ways an autistic brain is, but it is different than the neurotypical brain. And somehow in my head, I'm like, well, if my brain's not the same, like, then it's easier to forgive myself. But it's like, if it is the same, then I can't. If it's partly okay, can I? Anyways, I thought I'd end my video with that little aha moment of like, okay, maybe not everyone in my life has autism. Maybe there's a lot of autism phenotypes, because like they're really functioning. They're like making their appointments. They're going to multiple stores during the day. They don't need significant time to recharge. Anyways, I don't know who's gonna watch this video, so if you do watch this video to the end, or if you're seeing this, let me know, because I'm like super curious.